Hello guys, welcome to today's tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to draft the basic overbust corset. So if you're ready, please stay tuned with me and watch to the end. Now, first thing I'm going to do is to create the box which we're going to be using for this pattern. And now on this paper I'm marking 20 inches. How did I come about this 20 inches? I divided the hip circumference I'm working with by 2, which is hip 36 divided by 2, came up with 18, and then I added 2 inches for allowance. Okay, that's how I got this 20. Now I've marked that 20 all the way down. I'll now go ahead and divide this 20 into 2, which gave me 10. I'll mark this 10 also all the way down to the end of my paper, and then I'll go ahead and rule it out. Okay, now we have our paper ready. Now we're going to be ruling out our horizontal lines, and the first line I'm ruling here is my chest line. This chest line is gotten by dividing your bust circumference by 6 plus 2.5 inches. So that is bust 33 divided by 6 plus 2.5 inches. I got 8, and your chest line runs across the front and the back pattern. At this point, I was trying to decide where I will use for my center back and my CF. So you can see I have decided on that. The next line I'm going to be ruling will be my shoulder to bust point, and I have that to be 9.5. Moving forward, the next is going to be my shoulder to under bust. Shoulder to under bust for this pattern is 13.5 inches. I'll go ahead now and rule my half length, which is shoulder to waistline, and for this pattern I have that to be 16.5. I'm labeling now chest line, bust line, under bust, and half length. From this half length for the front, I'm going to measure 10 inches downward also. This 10 inches is going to serve as my hip line. Okay, for the back, this is my chest line. From the shoulder line, I'm going to measure the half length for the back, and half length for the back is 14 inches. Okay, so I will label that just like I did for the front. From the back half length, I'm still going to measure that 10 inches downward for my back hip line. I will label that as well. Coming back to the center front, the next thing I'll be doing is to mark my shoulder, and then my shoulder slope for the front is 1.5 inches. The neck measurement I'm working with is 3 by 3. I'll connect that with my French curve and also go ahead to connect it to my shoulder slope. I'll repeat the same process for the back. Shoulder 7, shoulder slope for the back is 1 inch, and for the back neckline I have 3 by 1. I'll also go ahead and connect all these points. On my chest line, I'm going to bring down my shoulder measurement, and then I'll roll that out, go up by 3 inches, go in by 0.5. I'll connect it like this, and then repeat the same process for the back also. For the back now, from my shoulder slope to the chest line, I'll measure what I have, divide by 2, then go in by 0.5 and connect also. We're trying to create our armhole. Now, coming back to the center front, at this point, you're going to bring your across bust measurement. The across bust for this client I'm working with is 18.5. Now 18.5 divided by 2, I got 9.25, which was what I marked there, and I got that to be 9.25, and you can see that I've completed my armhole there. For the back, what you're going to do is take your bust circumference minus your across bust, and whatever you have is what is going to serve as your your bust measurement, which you're going to mark on the chest line. Okay, now coming to the waistline, the waist I'm working with is waist 27, and I'm going to be cinching that waist to waist 24, so which means I'm taking out 3 inches from her actual waist circumference. So for this pattern, I'm working with waist 24. But the first thing I'm going to do is to divide the actual waist, which is waist 27, by 4, and that's going to give me 6.75. That's what I marked. Okay, please go with me. Now for the hip line, her hip is hip 36. We're just going to divide her actual hip by 4, which is 36 divided by 4, and that's going to give me 9. Okay, now we're going to repeat all this process for the back. Her waist is 27 divided by 4, we got 6.75, and then her hip is 36 divided by 4, and we got 9 inches. Okay, all right. Now from the half length, you're going to mark 5 inches downward like so. This is now going to serve as the corset length. We'll repeat the same process for the back. From the half length, which is the waistline, go down by 5 inches. And this is going to be the corset length. Okay, now the next thing is for us to get our dart line, which is where the cinching process is going to take place. Okay, so I'm marking 3 inches on the bust line, on the bust line, the half length, and on the corset length. Okay, I got this 3 inches by dividing her nipple to nipple point measurement by 2. So her nipple to nipple point is 6 divided by 2, and we got 3 inches. Okay, to get our dart intake, what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect my chest line to my hip line. Can you see what I did? I'll repeat the same process for the back like so. Connect your chest line to your hip line. Now the space between your waistline to that line you just drew, now you're going to mark it, measure what you have, and then bring it to the back and continue like so. Okay, now I got 3.5. You go ahead now and divide that 3.5 by 6. Okay, the 3.5 you got from measuring what you have there, divide it by 6, and I have that to be 0.58 or so, which I approximated to 0.6. And then you're going to mark that on both sides of the dot line. For the front, you come down by 1 inch from the bust point line, and then you create your dot intake like so. Okay, now you're going to measure what you have. Okay, because remember we are cinching the waist to waist 24, and 24 divided by 4 is going to give us 6. So what we're supposed to have after that intake is supposed to be 6. Now you can see that what I have is not up to 6, so I'm going to complete that. Can you see? Now I'm going to go over that again. Remember we measured from the waistline like so. Okay, then we marked what we got for the front. Then we came to the back and continued that measurement, and we got 3.5. Okay, this 3.5 we went ahead and divided it by 6, which gave us 0.6. Now, and with this, we divided into 6, which means we're supposed to place it in 6 points. Now we've placed 2, that is 3 for front, 3 for back. Okay, so now I'm going to bring out the remaining 0.6 on both sides of the waistline there. Okay, so that means I've placed the 0.6 6 times now. Can you understand that? What this process does is that it helps you to know the actual amount of that intake for each specific body size. You don't have to assume the body size, that intake to use for anybody. As long as you have their measurement, you know that intake to take for each of them. So now I'm wiping off this the last line we have, because that line is no longer needed. Okay, and then I will do the same thing for the back. Remember, so I don't confuse you, I returned 0.6 on the waistline, outside the waistline, for the front and the back, which means our 3.5 divided by 6, we have successfully imputed all of them where they are supposed to be. Now it is at this point now I will now come back again and measure what I have on my waistline, so that I will make sure what I have is 6 inches. Now you can see that what I have is a little above 6 inches, and you can see I've taken that out. It's barely 0.25, but I still took it out there. And you can see I did the same thing for the back also. Now I'll go ahead and rule that out now. Can you see? Okay, and then I will wipe out the old line. At this point, I've cinched my waistline to 24 inches. Okay, I will do the same thing for the back. Wipe out the old line I have there. Okay, so now our waist has been cinched to waist 24. Now the next thing is to take out the bust dart. For this particular pattern, our front half length is 16.5 and the back is 14. 16.5 minus 14, we have a difference of 2.5, which is what I marked there. Okay, now the next thing will be for us to do our 25% shoulder tightening for the front. What you do is measure your shoulder line divided by 2 and then connect it to your bust apex, right? Okay, now I'll go ahead and cut out. I'm going to separate the front from the back so that we have enough space to work on the front, and when we're done we'll come back to the back. Okay, now to create the 25% shoulder tightening, I'm going to open up that line. Okay, now my bust dart, I'm going to be folding it in. Can you see? And this opens up the shoulder line, the shoulder dart rather. Now from my shoulder slope, I'm going to measure what I have between them, and you can see that what I have there is 4 inches. Now this 4 inches, I'm going to divide it by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and you can see that I've marked it there. I'm going to connect it to the bust apex like so. Okay, now I'll come to the armhole and measure out my 1.5 inches, which is for the shoulder slope, and connect it back there like so. And then there's 1 inch that I took out from the shoulder dart there. I'm going to return it. Please look at how I returned it. I returned it to the initial straight line we had for the shoulder, not to the new armhole curve that we had there. And you can see that I've created the new armhole line now. At this point, I can wipe out the old one now. Okay, yes. So that's how you do your 25% shoulder tightening. Now I'm opening up the bust dart, and this is to enable me to close the shoulder dart. Can you see? And then you can see that my shoulder line is no longer straight. This is to keep it in place. And you can see my shoulder line is no longer straight, so I'll go ahead and blend it up. Alright. Next thing will be for us to create our under bust tightening. And for this, I'm going to be using 0.5 on both sides of the line. You can decide to measure your under bust, what you have for your under bust circumference, and divide it by 4. You know how we do it for bustiers, okay? You can decide to use that method, and you can see that I'm trying to show you that, but this works fine too, okay? Because at the end of the day, you even be taking out more than what you're supposed to, which gives you enough cinching there, so that's fine. Then you go ahead and just blend like so. Can you see? Now the next thing will be for our over bust tightening. So what I did, this is purely optional. You can decide to go up, you can decide to use your chest line, but I went up for this particular pattern. I went up by 1.5 inches. Okay, and then on that line there, on the new line, the over bust line, where I have my shoulder dart sticking there, you can see that I further tightened the over bust there by 0.5 on both sides of the line. Okay, all right. And then you can see that I'm also closing the bust dart. you can see that point is no longer smooth, it's kind of pointy. So you want to take out any pointy edge that you have there so that your seam line there can lay flat and it won't be pointy on the bust there. Now that you have all those adjustments, you can finally close up your shoulder dart. Okay, at this point I went ahead to create the sweetheart neckline effect that I want there. Okay, and then I blended into the armhole like so. Can you see? At this point you can create any neckline of your choice. You can just anyhow you want that place to be. It mustn't necessarily be a sweetheart. Okay, there are so many design or style necklines designs now, so you can choose the one you want and do what you want with it. Okay, so this is it. I am completing that underbust tightening that I had there. You can also decide to tighten your dart like so into the yoke, but that's optional. For this video I won't be doing that. Okay, that's if you want your yoke to be more tightened. Now on the bust line there, can you see at the center front, I'm going to create a dart there. Okay, 0.25 on each side of the line, and we are going to be closing that up. Yes, that dart is very necessary. Okay, yes, please, can you see? And when you do that, you can close it up and then you can see that the line is no longer straight. The center front line we have there is no longer straight. So just take your ruler and try to blend it up again like so. Okay, so try as much as possible to have a straight line there. Okay, all right. Okay, now coming to the hem of the corset length, I'm going to be creating a dart tightening there of 0.125 on both sides of that dart line there. Okay, now this is to enable the corset hem lay flat on my body. Okay, so that it's firm on the body. At this point, if you want to create a conical shape at the hem there, this is the point you can do that. But for this, I'm not doing that, so I just returned my 0.25 to the side seam there and I connected it. Then I went up by 1 inch there, can you see? And you can decide to create your curve in whichever direction you want, but for this is what I want to do. And that is all for this pattern. Can you see? Now we're going to go ahead to cut out. Okay, for the center front where you have your sweetheart effect, don't forget to blend that up. Which is what I'm doing now. Can you see? And remember, this upper part now is going to serve as our yoke for the front. Okay, Now you can see I can now close up my bust dart permanently. For this pattern, it blends on that at that point, but there are some patterns that you might have to blend it up. So please, if you have that issue, just blend it up. It's not a big deal. Okay? All right. Can you see what we have? Coming to the yoke now, you just cut. For this pattern, the sewing is basically the same process. Just how you sew your bustier. Now for the back, can you see? The back is very easy. What we're going to do now is on the chest line, go in by 1.5, and then you can see 1.5, and then on the corset length, I like to mark mine on the corset length. Sometimes some mark on the waistline, but I took 1/2 inch on the corset length there, and I connected a straight line there. So we're going to be taking that out. At this point, you can see that my dart that I created is very close to that line, which is now going to look beautiful, because we're supposed to have eyelets there. So what I'm going to do now is just to reposition the dart. I'm not changing anything. I'm just trying to reposition the dart so that it's not close to the center back there, because that line we have now is our new center back line. So what I just did is to divide what I have left on the chest line by 2, and then I went to the corset length also, and I divided what I have there by 2 also. And you can see I connected with a straight line, and then the exact measurement I have on the initial dart line is what I'm bringing back here now. Okay, I'm just trying to wipe that off so that it goes away completely, and you can see that I've moved the dart just to move it, nothing serious about it. I'm not changing anything. I just moved it so that I have enough space on the other side. Okay, and on the corset length, the same way I tightened the front with 0.125 on each side of that dart line, I did the same thing for the back. Then I brought out the 0.25 out to the side seam. And the same way I went up by 1 inch there also. Okay, this, and then coming to the chest line there, up there, I went down by 1 inch. This is just to give our corset a little curve at the back there. At this point, you can decide to do your yoke styling if you wish. You can see that I'm just showing you different yoke styling you can do at the back there if that's what you want. But for me, I'm going to be leaving it like that. And this is where we're going to be having our eyelets. Can you see? And you can see I just remembered to go up by that 1 inch there. And yeah, That is it. And also, yes, for your center back, please go up by 1 inch. You can even do as much as 1.5. Okay, this is so that your corset doesn't rest on your hip, which is, let's say, your bum now. Yes, when you go up like this, it gives you room to relax. When you want to sit, your corset will not be pressing or compressing your hip there. Okay, so this is why it's necessary to go up there, and then just try to blend it to the side. Okay, so can you see what we have? Now you can go ahead and cut out, and you can see it's not really that difficult, right? Now, like I was saying earlier, the sewing is not that difficult. The sewing process remains the same, so I won't be making a video of that. Okay, it's just the normal sewing process. All right. Okay, so this is the back. Can you see? Don't forget to label so you don't forget. Make sure you put all your markings also. If there are markings that will help you to remember anything, please don't forget to put those markings. And this is it. So if you've watched to this point, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for trusting us. God bless you. And guys, this is what it looks like when I made it. Can you see? Can you see how beautiful it is? Please try it out and let me know. You can just drop a comment for me, and if you have any questions also, you can do well to just drop it in the comment section and I'll provide an answer to it. Thank you so much. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe if you haven't. Thank you. Bye.